Thank you, Dr. Chitra. It's been a pleasure to be invited today for this talk. I thank the ARC committee and you for giving me this opportunity. So what I thought I will do in the next 10 minutes is to share how we should be approaching a patient with corneal ulcer. And basically, we must understand the definitions of what is a corneal ulcer, what is a corneal abscess, and what is a corneal infiltrate. And I myself wrote this definition 1,000 times in my fellowship. So all of you, please be clear about these definitions. And whenever we treat patients with corneal infections, we must follow these 10 steps to be successful. And with these 10 steps, most of your questions in your vivas may be answered sufficiently well if we go through them in a stepwise fashion. The most important area which I have been asked to speak today is about clinical evaluation and documentation. And when it comes to that, I think we always need to start with an extremely detailed history, right from the day one of infection to the time the patient reaches you. Look for the various factors that may have caused the ulceration. Look for all the treatments that the patient has taken and what has been the response to the previous treatment, which is very important to guide what you can start once you examine the patient. Always look for previous history of any eye problems or ocular surface disease and systemic conditions which may predispose to corneal infection. The first step is always to look for why did the patient get the ulcer in the first place. So always look for foreign body or a corneal epithelial breakdown, ocular surface disease, contact lenses, not to say even a nasolacrimal duct obstruction can be missed. So these are some of the important issues to always look at in the historically and otherwise on examination, because it can give you good clues as to what is the possible cause of the ulcer, what are the possible organisms that you're going to encounter in such situations, and it can help you select your antimicrobial therapy empirically to begin with. It can also give you some guidelines as to what would be the course of this particular type of ulcer and warn you against certain non-infective etiologies which might mimic a corneal ulcer. I won't stress, but blood sugar is the most important thing to check. Even if the patient tells you he's not diabetic, he has recently had a normal report, please do cross check, because this is the most common mistake that I find with the uncontrolled diabetic. The ulcer will not heal unless you control the sugars well. And of course, you have to look at other systemic factors as well. Documentation, doing diagrams is especially very important. Handmade diagrams can be drawn with just few color pencils in your clinic, and they can give you a lot of information and are extremely useful in day-to-day practice. And I would request you to go through this very old reference from Dr. Lipson, who has told us how to color code and draw corneal ulcers and corneal infections. One important tip is that don't put fluorescein in the eye till you have drawn a correct diagram, you have taken a photograph if you wish to, and your consultant has seen the patient. And all the drawings that you draw need to be calibrated. You need to measure the size of each variable that you have documented there with the help of a slit lamp. You can use customized sheets like these to make these diagrams, and they can be very useful so that you don't miss any important information. You need to look at the frontal view, the slit view, the staining view, and take the measurements and follow the color codes which are traditionally and standardized today. When you look at epithelial defect, look at the size. Infiltrate, again, we need to measure the size of the infiltrate, the edges of the infiltrate, how do they look, the density, and what is the depth of the infiltrate. You need to look if there is any thinning, how is the stromal inflammatory reaction, the anterior chamber reaction, how big is the ulcer, from where is it in relation to the limbus and the sclera, and the presence of any vessels. Not to forget, when you do corneal examination, do a general external examination, look at the lids, adnexa, the sac, and never miss the corneal sensations, which is very important in any patient with corneal ulcer. We all are now more used to taking digital pictures. Well, this is good. You can archive them, gives you a good record. You can take online opinions, but there are advantages to the handmade drawings, which as a postgraduate, I think is very essential because it's a learning tool. Even today, I would spend maybe several minutes to go back and forth looking at the patient when I draw a diagram, so that I can actually replicate what's on the patient's eye. And it's much less expensive. It gives you immediate record. And there are several details which you cannot archive on a photograph, as well as for example, a slit view cannot be obtained on a photograph as well. So once you evaluated the patient, the next step is to judge whether you're looking at what type of infection. Well, some of us might be restricted to you doing only clinical workup and trying to treat these patients, but that is not ideal anymore today. At least we need to use smears which are readily available, can be easily done in most settings. And those in larger centers can also have access to culture and more advanced testing protocols. We know the clinical judgment is very important, so that you can start something empirically till you get the smear report or you get further microbiology reports. And it's very important that we don't give cocktail treatment. And even if we can sort of differentiate bacteria versus fungal, I think 90% of the cases we will be able to make the start the correct treatment. I think all of you in the books will have read the differences between a bacterial and a fungal ulcer. And these signs which and history we all need to look into when we see a patient with a corneal ulcer. Also, to understand these classical descriptions will usually get lost during the course of treatment. So a patient coming to you with maybe a month of cocktail treatment, you may not find these typical clinical clues, and then it's really the microbiology which plays an important role. Today, we will be talking, of course, in future talks of the various treatments that you can offer if you have a bacterial or a fungal or different types of ulcers. I think the problem comes that if you cannot judge what is the nature of infection, then we tend to give cocktail therapy, which often fails, which is toxic. And in these situations, either we need to refer these patients or do a proper microbiology workup. Microbiology today is extremely important. And as I said, you can at least do a smear testing, which is fairly good. We also need to change the way we have been doing microbiology, because in some of the centers, we may be using microbiology with maybe not up-to-date techniques, which might give us negative or wrong results. So we need to look at doing it correctly. And there are certain infections where if you do not have microbiology, you should refer them on day one to a higher center where it can be treated more reliably. And there is no point of treating these patients empirically in the present scenarios. So once you have done your microbiology, you send the smear report. The smears we know are sensitive and specific and give us a very wide variety of information about various organisms. Probably most organisms can be picked up with a smear report itself, and it can quickly within an hour or two can guide us what is the next course of action or the drops that we need to start for the given patient. However, there will be some patients where the smears don't show anything. In these situations, if we can continue our empirical therapy till we have cultures on hand. If we don't have cultures on hand and if the patient is getting worse, in that case, we need to consider whether we would try to do repeat smears or refer the patient to a higher center so that we can get to the diagnosis correctly. And once you've started this treatment, we need to monitor and see whether the patient is getting better or not. And to monitor, it's very important that you draw the diagram daily. It's only when you draw the diagram daily, looking at the slit lamp, you will start realizing what is an infiltrate, how is it resolving, what is an epithelial defect. The measurements will help you to learn how a corneal ulcer responds to treatment. And that is something which is very important to be done on the slit lamp and drawn every day. Once you have the cultures, which usually come in after 2 or 3 days of treatment, if things are going well, the patient is improving, probably most often we don't do any change in medical treatment. However, if the patient is not getting better, the lab results can help us to modify treatment, or they can help us to shift to more effective drugs so that we reduce toxicity. Now, there will be some patients where we have done everything, but the patient is not improving and the patient is progressively worsening. So in these situations, we need to think of these various options so that we understand what may be the reason. For example, we may be on a wrong line of therapy, giving a antibacterial for a fungal ulcer. It could be an unusual infection which will not be treated by the routine medications we are using. There may be drug resistance or a high infection load. There may be issues of poor drug penetration. Not to say you can have issues of poor compliance in some patients. There can be other factors such as toxicity, which may sort of mimic a non-resolving infection, or there can be ocular surface or immune-mediated pathologies, or I just said a high sugar level may just be there, which you're missing out totally. So you need to answer your question in your mind. Is it a non-resolving infection you're treating? Is it a non-infectious ulceration, which now you're trying to treat? The infection has improved, but the non-infectious factors, which may be because of surface disease, they may be because of certain immune factors, are now playing hold. Or are there multiple factors which is causing the infection not to sort of improve, or the ulcer not to really heal over a period of time? And I can't stress more, but there are so many factors on the ocular surface which can cause things which look like infection to a naive person's eye, and we treat them as infection. They will never heal till we address the primary issues which are responsible. And despite all this, there will be some patients where surgery will be required, where you might require to do a cyanoacrylate tissue adhesive or a corneal transplant, a therapeutic graft. This will happen when you have ulcers which are progressively deteriorating, moving towards the limbus. And these patients, you will have to do a surgery. It's always better to do it earlier rather than late if the infection is progressive, because the later you do, you're probably not going to be able to save the vision in that particular eye if you're too late in doing a surgery. And just one or two about the adjunctive management, just like to warn that giving too many drops in a corneal ulcer patient doesn't really help. So with your cycloplegics such as atropine or omatropine and your antimicrobial drugs, don't give too many drugs which will reduce the compliance. For example, you may give lubricants and so forth drugs. One important thing to remember is NSAIDs are best avoided when there is a corneal epithelial defect, because they tend to cause corneal melting and perforation. So never use them. And corticosteroids, as a rule, in corneal ulcers are best avoided, despite some studies which say that it may have role in selected cases. I think we should leave this for the experts to decide. And as students, I think it's best that we avoid using these drugs in corneal infection. So this was general overview of how we should approach a patient with corneal ulcer, and we need to go step by step. And if we go like this, I'm sure we'll be able to treat our patients better and sort of have a good outcome. Thank you.